Okay, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Assembly Housing and Homeless Committee. It is Wednesday, February 19th at 11 a.m. Thank you all for being here. It looks like we have quite a few people that have not arrived yet. And so just wanted to make sure that those that are here, let's go ahead and do roll for those who are here, and then we can add those members as they come. So if we can just go around.
Karen Bronga.
Randy Solt.
And on the field, Mr. Littlefield, are you here?
Yes, I am, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and my name is Cameron Perez Verdia. I'm here as well. And for those on the phone, Mr. Littlefield and others that join, please remember, if you want to get in the queue, please text me and I'll make sure to recognize you. What's that? Yeah, why don't we go ahead and change the agenda, just because I don't think that Farina and Thea are here. And why don't we have Kim, do you want to come up first? And we'll start with the Anchorage Health Department. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, everyone. Kimberly Rash, Anchorage Health Department. So I have a couple of updates today, some on funding and two other items. So our current funding, just to kind of go over it for sheltering, is we're using general government funds. And we have a little bit left of our State of Alaska grant that we received for the congregate shelter. Those funds will be expended by mid-March. So starting in mid-March, we will dip into our general government funds. We have a little over $3.5 million there, which was the match that was required as part of that agreement that we have. Coming out of those costs are going to include the rent for the facility, the utilities, food service, and then the operator for, again, the congregate shelter, which is solid waste services. Out of alcohol tax, we have non-congregate. We are funding our operators out of a little over $4.5 million that was appropriated in the alcohol tax budget. And then we will be using our general government funds for food service for non-congregate, the remaining of our funds to fulfill the current contracts that we have. Also coming out of our general government funds is funding for the warming center, as well as the third-party oversight. And so we have funds in place to fulfill those contracts. And then in speaking with OMB last week, we are looking into if there are any other additional funds from the Sprung structure sale. We had some of those appropriated to non-congregate sheltering, but we believe that there might be some additional funds left there. So if there are, we're going to dip into those and use those as well. And looking in the future, as first quarter budget revisions come upon us, some of the items that we are going to need to request, whether those funds are going to be year-round services or just for the start of the emergency cold weather shelter season, which is typically starts in October. We are going to need to request additional funds for all sheltering, whether that be non-congregate, congregate, as well as looking at if we have a scatter site model and looking at paying any type of rent or for property management at those locations.
Actually, can I ask a question on that? So you're saying that for the first quarter budget revision, we're going to need additional funds for this season, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. Correct. And then we're going to obviously, as I work through this process, we're going to anticipate any increases for any of the upcoming RFPs that we are putting out. And that's going to be for operators, shelter sites, any other types of centers that we open up as part of our overarching plan to address homelessness. In regards to some updates, some of the things that are on our to-do list as the health department is coming to the body by April is we need to request another extension of the Title 16 activation. The current activation ends April 30th. And so in order to continue operations at the congregate shelter, I will have to bring that forward to the body, just extending it out for, I would say, the remainder of this year. And then another item is in March, coming hopefully through this committee meeting, is going to be the 2024 alcohol tax presentation. So a couple of months ago, I had presented on the 2023 data. So again, this will look very similar in that I will be presenting all of the 2024 grantees that receive funding through the alcohol tax. It'll break down the impacts that their funding has made. It will also go over what was spent, what was appropriated, and then the intent for those services. And so I know that everyone is eager to see some of that data as well. And that is all I have.
Sure, go ahead, Mr. Stoll.
Just curious, so once you get the RFPs out, you'll have an idea of the different funding levels for the different paths. And have you started looking at what do we do after we lose the current congregate shelter? Because I know that's going to expire at some point.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Good morning. I would first like to apologize for being late, but through the chair, for co-chair Solt, could you clarify the question when you say when we lose the congregate shelter?
Well, I know Solid Waste Services wants that facility back at some point. Now we can always probably flex our muscle and make something happen, but assuming that we're good neighbors, we'll give it back at some point. What's the plan beyond that? Or and if you don't have one yet, that's fine. Still working on it.
It is still in progress, and to really kind of support what Director Rash stated, we are genuinely trying to move towards a scatter site model. It has been something that has been a part of the mayor's priority and strategy since taking office, recognizing that individuals really do thrive better when they're in smaller scatter site models. In the upcoming RFP for congregate, we really do look for a service-rich model, moving away from kind of the original paradigm where we're looking for life, health, and safety, meaning that there's a bed for a person to go. But how do we really shift and have a goal that we're creating movement in the system? And movement in the system means that we need to be able to have service providers available in a service-rich environment, understanding and recognizing that the individuals we serve have complex needs and that it requires multiple touch points before someone is often ready. And really shifting the way that we think about how we provide services in that scatter site model is kind of that first launch. If that doesn't work, contingency management is always a part of what we do, but that is the absolute goal, is really thinking about how do we create change based on it being very person-centered.
Yep, and it looks like that's part of your update as well. So we'll make sure to get to that. Director Rash, I do have a question for you. The website we have Cheers to You Anchorage, which is a site that updates people on the alcohol tax, correct? And then there's a funding tracker on that. Is that relatively up to date? Is that something that people can go to learn more about what those funds are being used for and sort of the impact of those? Is that generally where you would send folks?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the health department has worked with the Assembly's legislative services team. I believe that they are the individuals that actually update that data, but we have worked with them to make sure that the numbers are shored up. So yes, I would say that is a reflective area to see.
Okay, great, thanks. I just want to make sure folks are aware of that they can go to the site. Again, it's cheersanchorage.org, and it has a lot of information about the alcohol tax, but it also has a funding tracker that you can see where funds are being spent. So, great. Any other questions about the update at this point? Doesn't look like it. And then, did we cover both of your items? We also have third-party oversight, RRS, or funding over. You got that already. Is that yours? Yes. Is that on your
It's on
side?
their
Okay,
side.
great. Okay, great. Okay, super. Just misorganized there. Thanks. Okay, thanks. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I'll just move that item, third-party oversight, to under. Oh, I see. It's right there as well. Okay, it's double marked. Thanks. Okay. Hey, if you'll maybe reintroduce yourself for the record, and then you guys can start whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Farina Brown, Special Assistant to the Mayor, Homelessness and Health.
I think it's still morning. Good morning. Thea Agnew-Benben, Special Assistant to the Mayor, Homelessness and Health. Great, okay. We wanted to start, since this is a data-driven update, we wanted to start with latest data. So I know that ACH is on the agenda today too. So we're just gonna breeze through this and let them do more of the deep dive. But this is the current system overview as of the end of December. So we're looking at about 3,000 people experiencing homelessness, and that's broken down as you see here. So part of our strategy is really a focus on unsheltered homelessness. So we are particularly interested in those two lower left-hand boxes of around 470 people who are unsheltered and about 1,760 who are unsheltered or who are in shelter or transitional housing. So those are our kind of main focus in terms of the priorities we're working on. I just wanted to call attention to some of the systems performance measures that the coalition tracks. Partly what's helpful here is when we look at the point in time count, as we know, that's just a count on one day of the year every year, but I think it is a good touchstone for us to look at and just to remind ourselves that we saw a huge increase in homelessness during the pandemic, and we're still edging down from that. Of course, we hope to see in the PIT count for this year that we're below the number that we had in 2024, but we'll learn that in a few months. Also wanted to just kind of remind the members that we do track income levels for people who are in our projects, whether that's shelter or other touchstones with the homelessness prevention and response system. And we track that by year. So I know it's probably hard to see up here on the screen, but we track for people who are either entering or exiting the system, what change in income they've experienced. And we look at that as both earned income and unearned income. So that's data that we can, we're tracking. We can bring that forward to you. We also can look at it specifically for those who are in municipally operated shelters, if that's what you want to see. So just kind of putting that out there is something that we can look at more in the future. And then also on that bottom stage, just looking at how many people are in emergency shelter. And again, seeing that went up a lot during the pandemic and it's edging down now.
So, thank you. Could you explain the upper right chart? I can see the years. What's the percentage across the bottom? What am I seeing?
The percentage across the bottom?
Right, you said that's income. This chart's income, right?
Oops, I'm sorry. What happened? I can't see it anymore. There we go. Okay, here we go.
So that percentage, what is that?
Just trying to make it bigger so we can see that
Percentage of some level? Or
little chart there. Are you looking at the blue band? Yeah, so the three different categories that we're looking at there, I'm just trying to make it bigger for you. Sorry, it's such a tiny little table. We can get this for you in a better, more readable format. I was more just trying to share with you that we had this data. So that's looking at adult leavers from the system. And the first one is those who increased earned income by year. The second one is those who increased non-employment income. And then the third one is those who increased total income. So it's just showing that.
Thank you.
And again, this is coalition data that they can also speak to when we get to their part in the agenda. And that we could pull together in different types of dashboards for you. Rena.
And this is my favorite document, which is the strategy document. I'm really proud to show this document with all of the actual check marks because it demonstrates that, as we've stated from coming into this position and this role and working with the administration, here are the goals that we put forward from the first 100 days through 18 months, which will take us through the end of the year. And we have stayed on task and on course with what we have sought out to achieve. What is really important to call out here is that we are now in the kind of June 30, 2025, that first year marker where the goal has really been, and we've talked about this a lot, is looking at rapid rehousing. recognizing that housing remains a priority, as well as ensuring that there's a safe place for individuals to go through our congregate and non-congregate shelter system and through all of the different partnerships. What we're really looking forward to is the ability to kind of flood the system with rapid rehousing dollars so that we're able to create that flow throughout the system. What, again, this really reflects is we talked about the need for scatter site model. We have talked about the need to address vehicles when moving to shelter. One thing that we've heard loud and clear from Member Braga and the assembly members in general is that we have a large number of vehicular campers. And so what does that look like? In partnership with AHD and with our shelter operators, ensuring that if an individual has a vehicle, they are able to park that in any of our muni operated shelters, non-congregate, as well as warming. And we will have a designated parking. We'll have more to come on designated parking, which we've been working on to get that moved forward. In Anchorage, it is something that we want to ensure that we have as many levers and as many tools as possible to address the variety of different ways that people experience homelessness. In this document, you'll also see that we've talked about creating public-private partnerships. Later on in the slides, we will talk about just ongoing engagement with our HLC and other public funders, public-private partnerships, and just really expanding the ecosystem of how we support muni-operated shelter services and how we leverage muni-operated dollars. I cannot say enough about the partnerships that have made this work, the onboarding of the HOPE team, the collaboration with the coalition, as well as Henning Catholic Social Services, as well as MASH, in really looking at who are the individuals that we serve and support. Having the other shelter operators, Brother Francis, all be a part of that continuum of care that recognizes that we are moving away from just simply having a bed for somewhere for a person to go at night, but how do we make sure that we have that linkage to move a person through the continuum?
So some of the priorities for this year, just kind of big picture, what we're trying to do, we want to move away from having a seasonal crisis of up and down in terms of availability of shelter beds, which inevitably results in a lot of people going outside during the summer, into having a more predictable year-round shelter system, and that has some capacity that we can just add in the winter if we need it, without having to do additional contracting and other kind of last-minute somersaults like we've done. We also want to move from having really large encampments where we don't have enough places for people to move from into making sure that we are able to continue to abate when we need to in terms of public health and safety, but also really continuing that outreach and engagement that's helping people move into shelter and housing. We also are really aware of the interplay between homelessness, behavioral health, drugs and alcohol, and crime, and we're really trying to expand our crisis response services, expand availability of public health, behavioral health services, and then also implement a public safety strategy that kind of brings all those things together. And we hear from, as we all do, from the community that people are frustrated, and we really are working to make this, like Brina was saying, like expand that ecosystem and make it a positive community effort. So those are our real kind of big picture focuses for the year. And that translates again into those same goals that have been in our strategy since the beginning. We want to see fewer people sleeping outside. We want to have more access to behavioral health and crisis services and other kinds of health and supports. We want to greatly increase housing, and of course the mayor also has the 1,000 homes and 10-year strategy that we're working on simultaneously. And then we want this to be a real partnership and a coordinated effort, and that includes bringing in funding from other funders as well.
I have a question for you, Ms. Braga.
How are you planning to address, and maybe it's within here, I know a couple of the vehicular campers simply do not want to pay taxes. And, we've gone round and round with neighbors about they have funding, but they feel like they're just not going to pay the man. And then I know that we have at least 2 campers in District 5, and I'm sure there's many more that have vouchers but don't want to use them. They don't want to be housed. And what's the plan for the people who don't want to take that next step?
Sure. Through the chair, Member Brunga, thank you for the question. So the idea of having a designated parking or safe parking is going to absolutely be an opportunity to address those that are willing and want to use the service. For everyone else, it is a law enforcement response. If someone is parking illegal, that is where law enforcement will engage with those individuals. They will red tag or white tag that vehicle. We always want to try to engage them first and say, hey, do you know that there's a place to go? In order for us to say that there's a place to go, we have to establish that. And that is the goal of designated parking, is to ensure that individuals can be directed somewhere, because we don't want to come in with just the heavy law enforcement putting people in direct contact with APD if there are alternative options. But we fully recognize that everyone has agency and choice. And then their choices will put them either in contact with law enforcement in a way that is going to lead to citation and potentially impoundment of their vehicles, or in connection with outreach and engagement in our designated parking. But I want to acknowledge for you and for everyone that's listening, we can put the tools in place, we can make the options available, but the individual has to avail themselves of that. And then the pathways that happen after that is solely their choice.
So is there a commitment that as we move into summer and there's more people around, is there a commitment to keeping our public spaces open for public to use without fear of the camping that's going on in them? And they have free choice not to use their vouchers, but hopefully we have free choice to move them along and say this is not where we camp?
Sure. Through the chair, Member Brunga, absolutely. The mayor has committed from coming into office safe streets and trails, and there's no deviation from that. What many individuals have seen since the administration came into the office is the ongoing abatement. It is ongoing engagement with outreach to try to link people to services, but the administration will continue to abate camps. The idea really, truly, and we're very excited to have the RFPs closing and the evaluation committee moving forward, is to really flood as much money into the continuum for rapid rehousing, because we want to ensure that there are housing options, that we have to create flow in that system so that there is a place for people to go. But at the end of the day, if someone makes the decision not to engage in service, not to go inside, we will continue to abate, which will put people in contact with law enforcement. And we hope that it does not turn into, and there's no desire other than compliance, is to move people out of those public spaces. What I will take the opportunity to say is that this is also a part of our conversation for communities to reactivate those spaces, to start going back out and having community meetings in the park, have the Boy Scouts go out, get back on the trails. An individual will come back to a place that feels safe. They will continue to camp in a place that feels safe if no one is using that area. And so I would say this goes back to that it's not just the muni that can do these things. It is a partnership with all of our community partners and our community members, that if we want to see change, it's ensuring that we all understand that we have to be a part of what that solutioning looks like. And it can just be as simple as getting back out on the trail.
I just wanted to follow up. I've tried to engage with Arctic Orienteering about starting to use Russian Jacks again, and it's a no bueno. It's unsafe, and people are traveling around by themselves with a compass, and children are involved in that club. So it's really hard to activate a space if there's been these negative happenings in those spaces, and we're going to need a lot of support to make that happen. And then I just, one last thing, I'm really sorry, but the designated or allowed parking, is there a way to charge a nominal fee? I was talking with a individual that came up here for a university position, and he was in Anchorage 2 days before his apartment was open, and he was one of these people staying in a car, and he willingly would have paid a nominal fee to go to a lot where there was some restrooms available. So I hope you will consider that some people do have the resources to put a small amount into a safe place to park.
Through the chair, Member Brunga, thank you for that idea. It's not something we had thought about. So back to the slides. So on deck is, and we've spoken to this, is the RFP coming out for congregate shelter sites in the scatter site model. We are actively in conversation with our state partners for community block grant dollars that were COVID dollars, that we have the opportunity to have those funds directed back to the municipality that will support ongoing non-congregate shelter. So we hope to have some information back from our state partners here relatively in the next week or two, very optimistically, but that would really create additional funding opportunity to have additional non-congregate shelter beds that would continue, because we recognize if we want to not see a mass exodus of individuals from our shelter system, we have to have some level of non-congregate that continues throughout our summer and shoulder season. As I've stated, abatement will continue. We want to pair that with having as much money, as much rapid rehousing dollars available in our community so that we're seeing that flow in the system. And then third-party oversight has been a really fantastic partnership in shelter coordination, as well as providing that line of sight on what's happening within our shelter, being a line of support for individuals that are using shelter services, but also as support for our shelter operators. So these are all of the items that will continue and really work towards our efforts to see fewer people sleeping outside.
Thanks. Can we go back to the RFP for congregate shelter sites? So can you explain what that is and what you're looking for? I'm assuming that you're looking for scattered sites, but
Yes.
who is responding to that? Is it the people that would be running the site? Is it the building itself? What are we looking for there?
So the co-chair, Perez Verdillo, the RFP should be out, and I'm looking over towards Director Rash in the next couple of weeks, end of the month. So the details will be out at the end of the month, but we are looking for a scatter site. We would really love to have a variety of different bidders that are applying for that. And I wanted to be very ginger about the details until the RFP is out, but it allows us to think very differently. We anticipate it is going to be kind of some of our known entities that have experience in operating shelter services. One thing that is critically important is a recognition of the individuals that we serve. Having someone come in with no experience and the complexity of the individuals that we serve is not going to be a boon to the municipality and how we're using our dollars while they try to figure things out, but really incentivizing partnerships and looking at how do we create that service-rich environment. So I anticipate that in March, we'll be able to talk about the RFP in more detail.
Great, thanks. And then the abate. Can you just talk to us a little bit more? You mentioned abatement and the strategy around that, and I'm curious around that in terms of the guidelines that you're using to make those choices. Now that's been a conversation. I think that's been ongoing. The rationale and the basis you're using for abatement, what are those key factors that you're using now to make the decision whether to abate or not?
So we follow Title 15 for abatement, and we really try to utilize the prioritization language when we are abating. And that is looking at our greenbelt spaces. It is looking at encampments that are near schools. I think it's really important for everyone to recognize is that we have many camps that have been around for 2 or 3 years. And so it feels very personal when an encampment is abated because those individuals have been able to ultimately live there. That is their home. And so as we continue to abate, it is very difficult because the community has housed their unhoused neighbors, many of our communities, for much longer than others. And so how do we find a solution that really recognizes the community's experience as well as those individuals that are being abated? While outreach is critically important, having somewhere to go. Our shelter system has capacity for 532 beds, and that typically is full every night. So we know as more people are entering based on the data that the coalition has submitted in their snapshots and the number of individuals in camps that we have that are really entrenched that have been in our community for 2 or 3 years, there's not always going to be a bed. So having those rapid rehousing dollars and creating that flow in the system is really the only way that we get to a system and a level of stability that addresses individuals' personal experience of being unhoused and that impact on the community.
Just one last question for me. Can you give us an update on the warming centers? Where are they? How are they working?
Sure.
How many folks are using them? Can you just give us a sense of that, please?
Absolutely. So warming is operated at East 6th Avenue, and we only have one warming site, and that is through Henning. It typically, we're seeing a range between 66 to 100 unique individuals that are accessing the site. So when we say unique individuals, warming has capacity for 45. So what the vendor will do is, if they reach capacity and they have individuals that show up, then the first that's signed in for the evening, let's say there are 5 people outside, then the first 5 will be asked to step outside for an hour so that the next 5 can come in and get warm. And then they will just rotate people to ensure everyone has an opportunity. We really had hoped to have more warming this season, but it just didn't happen. But we recognize how critically important warming is for our overall continuum. We see individuals that will utilize warming that are not necessarily utilizing the shelter system. People will come in because they simply just want to get warm. They're not interested in going into either a congregate or non-congregate capacity. So there's a very specific population that access warming that aren't necessarily accessing our other shelter system, our other shelters. I think that's important when we think about the continuum and having a place for people to go. Not everyone is going to be ready. And warming allows for people to have those initial contacts, to make and have those engagements and to get comfortable. I'll say it and I will be redundant. The number of contacts can vary from one individual that, 3 times I'm ready, what do I need to do, to someone who might have experienced chronic homelessness. So it may take 15 to 30 times before they simply say, my name is Joe. And warming provides kind of that intermediary for individuals to start to build those relationships.
Yeah, and I have a question for you, but I just want to finish this by saying it does seem to me, and I'm certainly no expert, but having a place to go during the day,
Yes.
and having some scattered sites of that, especially in the high concentration areas that we know that folks are in, it seems like it's something that it's a logical thing to have happen. And so that rather than congregating on a corner to eat lunch or to see folks you want to talk to, congregating there where there's going to be some coffee, you're going to get out of the cold. It seems like a logical thing to be able to get people off the street and have an opportunity for someone to engage with them. So I would love, and I know that that's one of your priorities,
Yes.
these sort of day centers. But I'd really love to once that strategy is more fully developed, I'm excited to see where that goes.
And Co-Chair Perez-Rudy, I'll speak to this a little bit and I'll turn it to Thea. A part of our housing services RFP that just recently closed included services and supports, which would look at kind of day services for individuals, because we do recognize, alongside of the rapid rehousing dollars, people aren't just going to sit in an apartment. If my friends are outside, I want to go and I want to socialize. And I think that's a part of kind of the misconception about what people see when they're driving around town and, people are congregating, that there's an assumption that every single person standing there is unhoused, which is not true. So the idea, and something that I'm really grateful for AHD and Thea, as they were developing the RFP, really looked at creating those types of opportunities for individuals to bid on. Thea, do you want to speak to that a bit? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. I have a couple of questions for you on the phone. I am not. Is this Mr. Littlefield or Mr. Johnson? Do you have a question?
It's Mr. Johnson. I had a question.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, thank you. And if the folks could mute, okay, much better. Thank you. I phoned in a little late, so if this has already been asked, let me know, and I will go back and watch the tape. But my question relating to our abatement strategy for this year, I know public safety is already a factor that's contemplated. I'm curious more specifically, how are we looking at managing camps as it relates to a fire hazard? And in recent years, we've seen fires at camps spread into the surrounding woods. Fortunately, so far, these fires have been contained, but they're often in places that are difficult for firefighters to access. So I would just love to hear, as we're anticipating a very early start to the fire season, how are we expecting to manage the camps in a way that mitigates the risk of fire starting there and then spreading to the surrounding woods and ultimately to houses in the community?
Thanks for the question. This is Thea, through the chair. That is certainly one of the aspects of public safety that we look at, in terms of the criteria that we use for abatement. That's one aspect of public safety. There's also, I think at the latest Public Health and Safety Committee meeting, there was, and there's also a recent work session, the fire department is fully engaged right now on developing their response plan around wildfire risk. And we're engaged with them especially as part of the mayor's public safety strategy, we're engaged with that. So we will be feeding into that approach as they're developing that. So kind of looking at that from two ways.
Mr. Johnson, did that answer your question?
Okay, thank you. And I think it partially answered my question, and I appreciate the effort the administration and AFD have made to bolster our strategies and resources around managing wildfire, right? But ultimately, that's not how do we contain them after they start. And my concern is, especially if we are getting into a dry year, that we may be going to the point where it is not just a possibility, but perhaps a probability that a fire in a camp will spread and cause significant harm to the community. So I think whatever we can do to try and address that up front would be beneficial. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Mr. Solt.
Jumping back to the warming shelters real quick. Forgive me, they are 24 hours operations? No, they're not. Okay. And then also the other piece, so if you can't address that, and then also what services are provided at them? Are we giving out snacks? Are we having counseling, et cetera? Thank you.
Co-Chair Sol. Warming operates from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m. and the contract will end at the end of April. Services that are available in warming. Warming is considering that the time that the service operates, you're not going to have a lot of capacity to sit down and do a one-on-one engagement with folks. So what we expect from warming is that it is our lowest barrier location where individuals can come in and they can receive a snack, a blanket, and a beverage. It could be coffee, whatever it is that's available. And then someone that's familiar with the system. So you have your roving monitors, milieu support, but then someone that's able to do and the vendor is not required to do this, but they have been doing the coordinated entry assessments for individuals that are coming in to make sure that they're just connected to the service. Working with the shelter system, if they have individuals that say, I'd love to get to shelter, there's a partnership in helping individuals transition over to our congregate shelter. But then it's that relationship building. So when you ask, do they have, mental health supports or kind of case management on site, they do not, but we are absolutely looking at navigation services in the next iteration of warming in thinking about what did we see and what are those lessons learned from this season, that the necessity that it is absolutely low barrier is critically important, but the availability of those services also being on site will really kind of enrich those that they're building those relationships with.
Great. Ms. Braga.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask, so recently I saw First Presbyterian was doing warming. Have you engaged with the greater church community to see which churches are offering warming and how is that information spread throughout? And then my other thought kind of goes back to the scatter site shelter that you're pondering. And are you looking for muni-owned buildings so that it would possibly be a cheaper lift? Or is it the person that's going to take this contract owns the building and they'll be charging rent and the operator and everything? Just kind of curious of how that's looking.
Sure. Through the chair, Member Brunga, thank you for the question. So we have not had our opportunity to engage all of our faith communities on who is operating different services. So we are fully aware that First Presbyterian has leaned into this space and very grateful for that. But what we really want to do is, speaking exactly to what you said, is pulling together that coordinated effort around what faith organizations are willing to operate in this space. We know that several years ago, our emergency cold weather system was really the network and fabric was all our faith communities. And then the Muni really stepped into this space in a different way. And what we want to do is build that ecosystem of Muni operated shelter services and supports, and then all of our community partners, which include the faith community. And they could also be partners. And when we're talking about day services and warming, how they come into these spaces to support that. You asked about the RFP. I think we'll have a deeper dive that'll answer some of those questions next month once the RFP is posted.
Get through all this. Okay, I know that you have other items, so we'll just kind of move through this and just stop me when you want me to stop. So second goal that we have, because all of the things we talked about in the first goal are really kind of our immediate response to people in crisis in terms of meeting those safety net needs. This piece is really about how do we help connect people to the care that they might want to take advantage of in order to be able to move into housing and other support. So we've convened a crisis response work group. So we've got the fire department, police department, community manager office of the mayor, and the health department meeting regularly. We've identified, as of last week, a series of improvements that we want to make to our crisis system that we can do just within the work that's already happening. Some of those things are already underway. So we've changed the safety patrol service area that used to be somewhat limited. We've now taken those boundaries away. The result was no decrease in service. So that was a good one. We now have some changes we're going to start piloting with the safety center to see if we can kind of really optimize and maximize the services that center can provide. We've got a great contractor with Sala, so we feel like there's some real movement towards creativity. And now that contract is with the fire department, that also creates some much easier synergy with our mobile crisis team and some of our other services with regular EMS. So that's been really productive. We've also, the fire department has secured some funding from the state, so they will be reinstating their core team, which is where we have an advanced practice provider that can go see people in their homes or in other locations and provide that type of support. They're actively hiring clinicians for the mobile crisis team that's 24/7 in order to make it 24/7. And then we've also been really exploring synergies between the police department's mobile intervention teams and the mobile crisis teams, and how we can make sure that we're really sending the right team to the right call every time. So that work is ongoing. We also are exploring some options for crisis stabilization. So again, we're looking into some funding through the state, and then also exploring, again, some further changes at the safety center and maybe a second site where we can really do more crisis stabilization, which has more of the linkage and access to treatment that you were just describing, Member Salt. We've been doing some advocacy at the state level to help develop and move a bill that would do what some other states have done, which would introduce a small surcharge on phone bills that could then produce a pool of funding that would go to support crisis services across the state. And as we know here in Anchorage, our mobile crisis team and our mobile intervention teams are funded solely by the Muni. So this would be a way of bringing in some additional funding for those critical services. We're also really working with our shelter operators to make sure we've got good connections with behavioral health providers. We have behavioral health providers presenting every week at our shelter operator meetings, and have had some really great stories of connection for folks, including people who are camping, going right into treatment. And that's often happening with the HOPE team, which has been a really great resource. For housing, we're, as Farina said, really trying to kind of flood the system. So we have closed, and the assembly hopefully will be seeing this, sorry, forgetting the term, notice of award or intent to award.
Mhm.
Yes, okay. That's being posted today for a Cook Inlet Housing, Baxter Family Housing project. So that will allow them, I think that the funding we're talking about right now will allow them to acquire the land. And then we've also been working with our state partners to recommend funding from some old CDBG money that would actually help them also put in the infrastructure for that project. So hopefully to speed up development of those family units. There also will be another award for the RFP for capital acquisition that's going to be on a little bit of a slower timeline that's still being negotiated. We should be posting an RFP this month for our current year CDBG money, and that can be used for housing, construction, redevelopment, acquisition, a whole host of things. We also just recently were able to secure the third tranche of our ERA2 money, so that's going to bring another $4 million in, and then we also have 1.5 million in home art money that's being decided, and hopefully we're still working on all of that, but hopefully that'll come to you in March. We want to get that out on the street as soon as possible. And then we're still working on our modular transitional living project. We've got some new information, and we'll be able to share some more at our next meeting as we get that rolling. Rhea?
And I'll just run through these very quickly. We have our community convening that'll be March 20th and the 21st. This is going to be an excellent opportunity to really deep dive into the strategy and kind of priorities for the administration in collaboration with the Assembly, as well as our partners with Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness. It is also a real intent to listen to our community members, to inform what we're doing, not just simply to give them kind of a forward look on what we've done and where we're going, but does it make sense? And then what is some of those kind of co-creation of solutions? Because again, it is not just about us as a municipality moving all of the solutions forward, but it really is going to require a variety of partnerships. We have had a series of community council and peer-led convenings, as well as a faith organization, a faith-led convening through our Muni contracted facilitator that is providing some feedback that will also help to inform and kind of start day 2 for the convening. As Thea spoke to, we are doing a tremendous amount of advocacy with our state legislature. The mayor has presented to the Homeless Leadership Council. We have had a series of meetings with that group, which is a critically important partner in the public-private partnership and how we look to leverage and synergize different projects and funding. There will be a follow-up meeting in early March. And we do have some upcoming meetings with the Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority to, again, just really think about how do we bring a diversity of funders to the table. And of course, we have our ongoing meetings with our community council, faith communities, and just individual organizations, just so that there's always an open door to the administration and that we're listening and making ourselves available.
Awesome. It looks like I have an old version of this.
Yes.
Would love a
And
new
I
version.
will go
Yes,
grab.
that's great. So, do you have any questions, Mr. Salt? Okay, great. Thank you so much. That was super comprehensive, and appreciate all the information. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on with our agenda. We have, is someone here from the coalition? Oh, you're here, great. Oh, is that right? Oh, let's do that as well. Okay, great, thanks. Is it RSS? RSS, yes. Wonderful. Oh, perfect. Okay, welcome. If you can share your names for the record, and you'll have your floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Kathleen McLaughlin with Restorative and Reentry Services.
I'm Emily Robinson with Restorative and Reentry Services.
And we have the third-party oversight for the emergency cold weather shelter. I just want to say it is going extraordinarily well. And I am very proud of the work that we've been doing. One of the things that we do is our weekly report. And thanks to some suggestions, I think, by this body, we have tried to make it a 3-pager, concise, with an overview of what's happening at each one of the shelters, as well as to give recommendations and suggestions. One of the things that I think is pivotal this year is that we are doing things in real time. We are real-time decision-making every single day. And when I say we, it's a team of individuals that are deciding how to help an individual get into shelter, stay in shelter, and exit to a healthy outcome. And as oversight, we have been able to host 2 meetings a week that the shelter operators and ACH attend. And we also do something that I think is extraordinary. In every morning, there is a tally of the available beds. And every morning, ACEH and the shelter operators and outreach, including APD, I think the HOPE team is here. We tell, I shouldn't say we, the shelter operators inform us what beds are available. And then we look at coordinated entry, the individuals that are in camps that want to move inside, people that want to move from CWS to a hotel room in order to stabilize. And by doing that, you are utilizing all 532 beds every single night. And when there's an availability, it's given to the community and the outreach, as well as moving within. An example of how it works is very quick. I'll just quickly use an example. We had a gentleman who came into warming, had never been into shelter before. Within 5 days of using warming, he went to CWS. He stabilized. He got into his medications thanks to the operators leaning forward. He just moved into a hotel room at one of the non-congregate sites. That is what we're hoping will continue on. And right now, I think the communication and the collaboration has been exceptional. ACEH has been a very good partner, as well as HOPE. The other thing that has been great is not only if are there the internal spaces for people, but if there is a better fit, like the HOPE Center or Anchorage Gospel Rescue Mission or any other place, we are able to get individuals to the places that best fit their needs. With respect to the warming, it has been a great opportunity to get people into the system. And in a lot of ways, about 4 a.m, when beds are determined to be open, the operators of warming will go around to the individuals within warming and offer them a bed. And then they will transport them to a place where there's a bed. And almost exclusively, we use CWS because that's just to determine the stability of that individual first in that kind of a site, and then move them to whatever fits their need. There are people that are coming straight from the camps. Some stay, some don't. We are finding and learning how we can develop better processes to make sure that we give more stability and more opportunity to campers. There are several campers that are currently in the system that started in the system in November and December. So as you can tell, I'm very proud of what this team has done. And I look forward to seeing what else we can do to shore it up a little bit more. And with that, Emily, did you want to add anything?
Not at this time. I think you wrapped it up really beautifully.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions?
I don't see any questions. I would just add, I really like this format. I think it's really kind of concise and clear, and gives us the information that we really need. And thank you for your work, and thanks for the update today. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yes.
Share your name for the record, and you have the floor.
Absolutely. Thank you. Jessica Parks. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness. All right. Thank you so much.
You need the HDMI port plugged in?
But she has one.
No, I didn't bring that.
Is that just- so-
Give us just a second. He's going to pull it up on the screen. This is our ACH homepage, and I'm just going to navigate to the data section and walk you through our data snapshot. Thank you for introducing the topic, Farina and Thea. We're just going to go through a little bit more detail of what's in that data snapshot and where you can find that information and where that information comes from. Perfect, thank you. Okay, so as Farina and Thea shared, this is our current system overview. This is a data snapshot of a period of time of the last day of December. So our data runs about 6 weeks or so behind. We should have the January information updated here in the next week, week and a half. So what we're looking at right now is December 31st, 2024. And in our system, we had just over 3,000 people actively experiencing homelessness on that day. Our data snapshot breaks it down a little bit between who those 3,070 people are and where they are. So we look at three specific populations when we talk about our Built for Zero data. We look at single adults. And when I say single adults, it doesn't mean that they may not necessarily have a significant other who is also an adult. When we say single adults, we're talking about households that don't have minor children in them. That's being captured in the 604, which is people who are in families. That's a family unit that includes one or more minor children. And then the middle number, 326, that is our unaccompanied youth that are age 18 to 24. You'll hear them referenced as TAY a lot, or transition age youth. And they are primarily served by Covenant House here in Anchorage, but we do have transition age youth throughout our shelter system and also unsheltered. When we talk about the where, Thea talked about this, but we really look at people who are unsheltered and people who are in a shelter or a transitional housing program. HUD defines all of that as shelter. If it's not permanent, if you don't have a lease, it's considered sheltered to them, and you still are considered experiencing homelessness. And the last number at the end are the people who are in an inactive state, about to go inactive. We have in our system a 90-day inactive policy. So if someone goes 90 days consecutively without touching anything in our system, they don't go to shelter, they don't go to the navigation center, they don't engage with outreach, there's no touches at all, they'll be dropped as inactive. If they come back, if they show up a week later at the navigation center or an outreach team has an encounter with them, they just come back on. All right, go ahead and scroll down.
That's a question about that. Just to clarify that. So, so you have 835 people that, at what point, I'm wondering when that 90 days starts and ends.
Sorry, so that number is people who've had no activity for 31 to 90 days. So for that first 30 days, they would still be considered in there.
Gotcha. So as of December 31st, there were 835 people in your system that had no touch point between 31 and 90 days.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. And so there are people that have had no touch point that are fewer days than that. And then what happens after the 90 days? Are they out?
Yes, so it'll be a little bit further down here and I'll explain
Okay.
how that gets captured, but yes, did just want to share that. And then as our programs, so when we look at this data comes from all of our different participating programs. So when programs are able to better engage with people at their exit, I use an example a lot where someone might be in a shelter and they may say, I'm going to go have a smoke, or I'm going to go visit a friend, or I'm going to go to the grocery store, and then they just don't come back. So you don't really know. You don't have that opportunity to ask them, are you going to a house situation? Are you leaving the state? Like what's happening? So the better we get at gathering some of that information at someone's exit, the less we have in this kind of limbo phase there of we're not sure where they are. All right, so if you want to scroll down just a little bit there. So this is a breakdown of inflow and outflow. So how these numbers come to be is we start with whatever our starting number was at the end of the prior month. We add our inflow. We get inflow into our system from 3 different places. We have new to our system. So these are people who are either brand new to experiencing homelessness, or they have been in a house situation for more than 24 months. So it kind of resets your status at month 24. We have people who return from housing. So those are people who have exited our system into a housing or a permanent situation, but they return before that 24 months. So they get captured a little bit differently. And then that returns from inactivity. So that's the people who were exited due to inactivity, but have come back in this particular month. And then the outflow is really to 2 places. You either go inactive or you exit our system into a permanent destination. So it's categorized on here as housed, but housed can mean a lot of different things for people.
So in that one, the 67 were housed as of what date?
This is for the entire month of December.
The month?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, great.
All right, so scroll down a little bit. So on our data snapshot, if you were to download and print this out, it's a front and back 1-pager. So on the back, what we've been trying to do is capture some of those frequently asked questions. So these are questions that we get a lot in these meetings. We present frequently at community council meetings, we were just at Rotary last week, to private businesses. So these are a lot of the questions that we get over and over again. And so we want to be able to highlight those questions for people before they have to ask them. So one thing that I think is worth highlighting, exits to housing have really slowed. If we look at December of 2023, we had over 200 exits to housing. In December of 2024, we had 67. So I think what that is an indicator of is that these programs are full. The housing programs that exist in our community are full, and they are full of people maintaining their housing. Our returns to homelessness are down. So people are maintaining the housing that they have. That is really good news, but it means we need more capacity. The second bullet there, comparing it to last December, pretty much that same thing. We do have some bullets here talking about cold weather shelter. What does that mean for our system to have that available? We do want to highlight that we have seen new homeless families. We've seen an increase in families experiencing homelessness entering our system. So we do have a family cold weather shelter system, but it's important to highlight that a lot of those families are living in situations that are really unsustainable for them. They are very housing insecure, doubling and tripling up in housing if they're not accessing that shelter. And that we still have people with barriers to shelter. We have people with pets who are unable to go to a congregate shelter setting, and that's the only shelter that we have right now that accepts pets. The same thing with people who are in a couple. If they are unable to be separated, it really limits the shelter that they're able to go to. Looking at the people who are new to homelessness coming from, Number one, people with evictions or the inability to pay their rent. So either a formal or informal end to their tenancy is what's causing that homelessness. Rents and housing costs are far exceeding the ability to pay in our community. And then just some bullets looking at what does that inflow do and where do we see that impact here in Anchorage. So I think it's important to call out that a lot of the people who come into our system leave very quickly through self-resolution. The example that was given of the person who just needed a few days until they were able to get their housing. We see that a lot. We see people who come in and out in the same month. And then we see some people who have bigger challenges, bigger barriers, and they may access our system for a longer period of time. And then not having new capacity means people have to wait for those opportunities to come, whether those are expansions of existing programs or short-term new programs that come into play. We are seeing that the inflow of people experiencing homelessness is disproportionately affecting Alaska Native populations. We know that that has been an issue for people who are in our population of people experiencing homelessness. So we're seeing that same disparity with the inflow that is happening. And then as we see shelters, they have increased demand. They're remaining full. As Kathleen shared, every single shelter is essentially at capacity every single night in our community. And we work really hard as a community to make sure that when we have those vacancies, we fill them very quickly. They don't stay open for days at a time. All right. And then I would just ask if anyone has questions or if there are things that they would like to see incorporated into this data snapshot, just please let us know and we'll do our best to incorporate it.
Thanks. Thanks very much for being here. And I do have a question, just also want to keep track of time. We have the three presentations. Yeah.
So of the 150 next step to apartments, how long do you hold those open if they don't come back to the apartment? Like they go somewhere, they're one of the inactive, we don't know where they went. How long are you holding those empty before we're turning them over to someone new?
Through the chair to Member Bronga, the next step wouldn't be part of that inactive. They are housed. So that 3,070 number is people who are actively experiencing homelessness. I can't say that it's one specific answer for that. Each scenario is different. Sometimes people go to, we've had people go to treatment centers. We've had people who go to visit family. So not occupying the unit isn't necessarily the same in terms of termination from the program for each individual. I'm not sure if that answered the question, but there's no like set rule where if you don't come home for 3 days, you lose your apartment. That doesn't exist.
I guess I'm just hoping that if they're occupying a shelter bed, that they also don't have an apartment, or if they're occupying Far North Bicentennial Park, they don't have an apartment. Is there a tracking mechanism to make sure that it's not happening?
Through the chair to Member Bronga, yes. So we contract with case management organizations that have every client in that project on their caseload. And so they are checking in on a regular basis with those clients. And if they are accessing shelters, they're figuring out why. If somebody isn't in their house, there's usually something wrong. And so they are troubleshooting that with the clients and helping get them back home.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. Great. All right. We have next on the agenda, we have three organizations that are here. I'm assuming we have two, only two. In our backyard, and is that it? Or is it another one?
Next steps.
Next steps.
Next steps is ACBH.
Okay, great. Okay, well, why don't we start with in our backyard, if that's okay. Why don't you guys come up? And my understanding is this is based on a conversation that happened recently about rollover alcohol tax funds from FY 24 to 25, and just getting a little bit more information about the work that you're doing. So.
The third from the bottom, I think.
Does it work? Oh, wonderful. Okay. So if you'd share your name for the record, and then you can begin. Thanks for being here.
My name is Julie Graham, and I'm the chair of In Our Backyard.
My name is Betsy Baker. I'm secretary to the board in our backyard.
All right. Well, thanks for having us. In Our Backyard has 6 transitional houses. 5 of them are used for housing people. 1 of them is an office space, and we are providing a welcoming community for and connections to resources for unhoused senior neighbors. This is our timeline of our first year of existence. January 2nd of 2024, we made our nonprofit. You can kind of see the steps we took along the way. Lots of volunteers stepping up, lots of people in the community. A big boost was when the assembly, getting back at the assembly approved that we could do modular housing, and cabins were built in 1 week with over 500 volunteer hours. I forgot to fix that. And then in mid-December, we welcomed our first guests. And in terms of the grant funding, May 7th is when the temporary shelters and ordinance from the assembly was passed. The published RFPG or RFGP. We applied in August 8th for 56,000. In December 15th, we were awarded that money. But we actually only spent about 8,000 in that time frame. And then we are looking to get that grant on February 11th. That grant was extended through the next year. So like I said, we have 5 cabins and 1 management office. We have 5 guests and 1 service dog. We've served a total of 8 guests. 3 moved on to other shelter. We had site management hours 24/7 to as needed. And we contracted with restorative reentry services for that on-site management. We have served 520 or so meals from beans. They've been donated. We have volunteers that pick up those meals. Restorative reentry services has also helped us get that underway. We have weekly coffees and have moved on to breakfast and hopefully group dinner makings, and that's all run by volunteers. And do you want to speak to the volunteers?
Sure. I would point out on the preceding slide that the site management hours, we started with round the clock and quickly dropped and are now just doing it on an as needed basis and have no site managers because the population is, they have their own community and they're helping us keep the place running. So volunteer activity, we couldn't do it without volunteers. We have hundreds of volunteers, but we're just putting a few numbers here. Interviewing guests. Our home team is a smaller committed group that meets weekly with the guests, with each other, with just donations, things, anything from food for the dog to holiday decorations to things like that. Snow shovel. And again, with these activities are working with each other, with our guests. It's not just the volunteers dropping in. And that's been especially helpful, keeping the propane flowing and the trailer functioning for showers, things like that.
Yeah, and a little bit of our guests who are staying with us, they're the ones that clean the shower trailer. I mean, I've gone in and looked and it's super clean. I don't need to do anything. They sweep the office, they shovel, they check the water level and give me a little text, and they are on it. So we are so thankful for the people that are staying with us. This is just some of our supporters in the community, and also over 200 individual donations from $2 to $10,000. And a couple of quotes from our guests. Can you go ahead, Nicholas?
Especially those in the back who can't read, these are what our guests are saying. I can turn the lights on or off when I want to. I can watch a movie with just my socks on. Another says, for me, I feel like a chance was taken on me and given by Inner Backyard to show me I do have help and hope in my quest to regain stability and regain my self-esteem. Thus, the program is a blessing. All this program asks of one is to care for oneself. This is love, and I thank you greatly.
We don't want to leave out our service dog, so go ahead and you can read that.
And for those of you who can't read it, Kathleen, Julie, and related philanthropists, just wanted to express my gratitude to you for all that you have done and continue to do for Tor, that's the dog, and I, and on behalf of us all. You have made a profound, significant difference in our lives. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Zoll.
I'll just make a comment. I think this is fantastic and really appreciate you. I think you're the first ones to do this in Anchorage, probably in Alaska, to go to this shelter model, and hopefully it fits into the scattered program. And I think we've both seen these in action outside the state, and I think a lot of what your guest touched on, the pride, self-esteem, that's what it delivers that I don't think our hotel rooms or congregate can offer. And like you said, they become a community.
Yes.
And they're taking care of themselves, which is fantastic. Thank you.
I do have one question before you go. So do you consider this temporary for your guests? Yes, I'm seeing you say yes. And so how are you working with others to connect these folks to services, to if they're needing of treatment, to work if that's a plan, or to sort of eventually moving them into something more permanent? Can you talk to us about how they're able to access those kinds of connections and services through your program?
Yes, so everyone that is living at one of the houses is with a case manager. We're primarily using Catholic Social Services for that. They meet with them at least once a week. We have an office in the church, and they're working with them, to get their food stamps, to get established, to get their IDs. And then the next steps would be either housing vouchers, looking for where to go. A couple of the people that are staying with us do have jobs, part-time jobs, just not enough to get rent yet. And so being here gives them just that stability to take a breath and keep their stuff so it won't get stolen, and be ready to move on. So we're anticipating 6 to 9 months, and that they'll be on to their next steps.
Great. Thank you very much. And then thank you for being here. Thank you for the work you're doing. Yep. Okay. Looking at our agenda, it looks like unless there's any objection, we're at our public comment. I'm assuming we have some people in the audience who want to speak. Could we set up a microphone over here? Okay. We'll get through as many as we can. That's a good idea. Why don't we just put the chair over there and yeah, let's come on up if you'd like to speak, and we'll get through as many as we can. So, do you want to use this chair right here? Is that you want to do, or you want to? Yeah, that's great. Okay, if you could share your name for the record, and then when you have a second, if you could put the clock up too, that'd be helpful. All right, state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes, and go ahead.
Okay, Ron Oliva. I can no longer continue these homeless meetings because of my concerns and recommendations have consistently fallen on deaf ears. I'm the longest lasting attendee since the homeless committees were formed way back with the Han Commission. sometimes the lone public attendee because I'm adjacent to the shelter. And I have suffered more from the overflow, but yet helped the homeless more than any other single individual in the municipality. Despite bringing forward real solutions and firsthand experiences, I have yet to receive meaningful responses or even a basic engagement. It is clear that your minds are made up. Pushing forward down a path, which you're presently doing, is not working, obviously, and remains ignored and unexplored with real solutions. Meanwhile, the reality on the ground continues to deteriorate. You passed a resolution, no more social services in East Anchorage. You rebuilt the resource center. You put in 50 people in a warming center, Henry House. You put in the guest house. Whatever you say, if your lips move, no one should believe you. Along with that, the expansion of these services near mine properties and others led to just outrageous complaints because there's no controls. And it's affected my business, my family, and unfortunately now my health. The stress caused by the daily bombardment of negativity, by the overflow to where you locate these homeless and what they're doing, the criminal element, has caused so much stress on me. My diabetes has taken over and I'm going to stroke out. So I want to leave this municipality vertical and not horizontal. And then, well, as I said, the unchecked flow has triggered this extreme stress, health, and has even affected my marriage because of the financial losses in the destruction of any possibility of economic opportunity working next to these facilities. So I sent you pictures. I sent probably close to 240 emails, and not one of my representatives answered it. So is democracy alive or dead? And I say, well, it's definitely dying, as am I. So I cannot subject myself to a process that refuses to listen. And I'm here with a genuine willingness to engage in real solutions, one that protect the community and business owners like myself, the community at large, and for sure the homeless who you torture. So with that, is my time up?
Yep, your time's up. Good job.
Get a clock.
Thanks, Ron.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
I'd like to say, see you all later, but
All right.
Could
it's
I
not gonna happen.
move to extend the meeting? Because I'm looking at the number.
Sure.
You say 5 minutes?
Sure, let's, I don't see any objection to that. We're gonna move to extend the meeting by about 5 minutes. Okay, sir, it looks like you're up next.
Yeah, I fully agree with you.
Okay, well, come on. If you
You
could,
guys are, you.
can you use,
Down there. I'm
can you-
right here. I'm
right, but it won't go into the record unless we use the microphone. So if you could use the microphone, and if you
Okay.
could just share your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, let's talk about this abatement thing. Gregory Smith. I'm a resident of Davis Park, the snow dump. Apparently you guys don't know what's going on. There is the abatements, everybody's frustrated, nobody's getting nothing done, because you can't. I don't know what the people are telling you, but there's a lawsuit right now against you guys, against the municipality. And what they're doing is illegal. It's already been set back in Engel versus municipality back in 2010. Okay, I guess this is Judas to notice. You guys know this is illegal and you're still doing it. All right, this little backyard thing, it's bull crap. Okay, I was invited to go there. They wanted me to give up my rights. They wanted to give up my integrity. And no, these little notes they have, they're from people that they handpicked. Okay, this place is a joke, a complete joke. Helping the homeless, I haven't seen really any help at all. Nothing. I mean, you talk about the fire dangers. Okay, we've asked for fire extinguishers. That's all we need is fire extinguishers. We can take care of ourselves. I mean, if we had that, my dog would still be alive from the fire that I had. All right, it was an accident. I turned around and turned back around and the place was on fire. All right. What else is there? this number is 475, okay, unsheltered. Why doesn't that number ever change? It never changes. Why is that? I mean, you guys think you know what's going on, but all you hear is a bureaucratical bull crap, and it's they're giving you a snow job. You guys really don't know what's going on out there. You want to know what's going on? Go talk to the homeless. Go experience it. That's what I did. I used to have your jobs. I made $61 an hour doing concrete. Ran my own engineering company. I'm living with these guys now, and I've learned a lot. I mean, a lot. Talk about family and community. I do anything for these guys. They've saved my butt several times. And when there's a fire, we're all there helping each other. Hope you guys just stop listening to this crap and go find out for yourselves what the hell is really going on, because they're giving you a snow job. That's all I gotta say.
Thanks very much for your testimony. Okay, who's up next? Come on in. Thank you. If you would share your name for the record and the microphone, and then you can begin. Oh gosh, careful.
Sorry. My name is Ruth Kvern Plassen.
Right, you can go ahead and begin.
I grew up in Anchorage and went to school from kindergarten through high school. I am especially proud of my 30 years working for the municipality of Anchorage. This is like my second home for many years. I've skied, walked, hiked, biked, and orienteered in most of the parks in the city, usually with a dog. I have lived in the scenic foothills area for over 11 years, and I do the majority of my outdoor recreating in Far North Bicentennial Park. Hike and ski established trails, big and small. Sometimes I get lost on purpose and then use my compass to navigate my way. There are wonderful places in the park. In the past year, I've come upon a specific shelter a few times. It's located on a well-used trail, though I've normally stumbled on it when I'm navigating in the open woods. A couple of times I've tried to see if the person there was in need, just saying, hey, I'm coming through. Is everything okay? I'm just going through. If it was occupied, there was no answer. Sometimes there's smoke coming from the inside of the stump rootstock shelter. I've never harassed this person or damaged his dwelling in any way. However, he has walked around with a machete, yelled at people, and threatened to shoot their dogs. I've tried to go the other way when I see him. I was walking the north-south gas line trail with my dog last week. It is an off-leash area. We play hide and seek, and when he ran ahead of me, I ducked behind a utility shed. As I was crouched down, I looked toward the south and saw the man who has been so agitated with my fellow park lovers heading not necessarily towards me, but nonetheless in my direction. I immediately called my dog and went a different direction. I waited a bit and came back towards the main trail. He was watching me intently. I thought he had continued on. It was very unnerving. I saw another dog walking and asked if I could walk with him. He was very kind. He could tell I was in distress. Many of the people who use this park are distressed by these encounters. Most of them are good, kind, friendly people. I know there are some folks who are unkind, those that can't see vulnerable people as fellow humans. As I've said, this neighborhood and the folks who frequent this park are in distress. I wish there was a better way to communicate when there are conflicts like this. The online forum is useful for locations, and 311 doesn't have a category for please help me, I'm concerned for my safety and that of my neighbors. We want this person to get the help he needs. We also want to know you care about our concerns. It is very disconcerting to see yourself on this man's YouTube site and being called names and have veiled threats towards you. I know that we shouldn't call the police if he's not breaking the law, but who do we call when we see him? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your testimony. We've already done it, so you can come on forward. Come on. Okay, your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Roger Branson. I'm out of Eagle River. I'm a longtime mental health advocate, working more recently with a lot of the homeless folks. About 10 years ago, there was this period of time from just after the holidays until Ferrandi that became most troublesome for me because the folks I advocate for, that's when we lost so many of them. It's when we still lose so many of them. And we've lost a few this winter, but the hope that has permeated and still exists in the community itself this year is different and better. And while I don't want to take away from the great concerns that we heard from individuals testifying before, I am thankful that they are here and that they are able to express those concerns because we didn't always have that capacity. And as a community, just how far we have come to get to this point. And for Monday starts in a couple days. Huge deal for me. For the advocates that are out there, for the great reports we heard from RRS, for the individuals in the community who pulled together to make it possible for Kathleen to give such a positive report. Just off the chart, positive things. We still got a little ways to go. We've got some very challenging experiences in some very specific camps that the folks are stepping up and making their voices heard, which is the first step in the rest of the community realizing we got a problem. We need to reach into this. It's not optimal that we have to spend money in the court system to solve these issues, but I am thankful that the court system is there too, and that these individuals are able to find the help that they need to get their voices heard, to find pathways to healing. And just thank you all for your participation. Thank you for the community. Thank you for the folks that showed up here to represent and for how far we have come in the 25 years since I was director at the Web, but the 40 years that I have been a mental health and advocate for homeless and restorative justice. Oh my gosh, we need to keep going. And I have every reason to believe that we will do just that. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Take one up.
All right. All right. Hold on a second. All right. Jamie Lopez, East Anchorage, formerly Coalition, formerly Homeless, largely unprepared remarks, going from the hip. If I go past 3 minutes, Phil Cannon over there is going to tell me to zip it up probably. So we'll see how this goes. All right. So I'd say largely, it's a very polished, well-rehearsed, an impressive slide deck. And I'm not talking about specifics other than to say it's a little bit plastic and insincere, not related to the in our backyard presentation, but the rest of it. So you have long-term goals, you have short-term goals, and your plan is to have 10,000 homes in 10 years. But part of this is, what is the plan for tomorrow? These people are largely abandoned and forgotten. They're not receiving support and services from the muni. And largely it needs to be looked at as a humanitarian relief effort. And when the coalition is showing up, once a week, they're handing a brick of ramen, and a bag of potato chips. I'm sorry, that doesn't do it. And so I've had to fill in. Literally, I took the 12 grand to do that. But there needs to be full-time support from the muni. And so that's part of it. There are hundreds outside. The abatements that are happening now, if you destabilize people, they move 1 block east, 1 block west, they lose their belongings. Then you have more upset homeowners, more upset business owners. And you need to look at this, the political cost, the business cost, the human cost, and look at a synergy and find a solution. But that means bringing people to the table. And that also means bringing people to the table like this gentleman over here, who has largely been keeping Davis Park together over a long period of time. And, you're not going to have enough housing for 5 to 10 years. And when you don't know what the total number is, and you're being told it's 475 1 month, 475 the next month, 450 the next month, 450 the next month, and 475, you're counting homeless in increments of 25, like they come in a value pack variety. But no, the numbers are higher. And you took 332 people outside, you put them in the hotels, they're still saying it's 475. So, it's people fall into it. The inactive status column, that is 50% return, if not more or less. You can do some data analysis, and I could probably show you. But part of this is you need to look at people unsheltered outside as stakeholders. You need to bring them to the table. This summit, it looks like the people involved think there's a messaging problem. You read the press release, and that's how it reads. There are real problems, and real problems require real solutions. And that's having roundtables, bringing people in. You hire people, obviously, also to try and get people with lived experience in these positions, because the people right here that are not sitting here right now, they don't have lived experience. They don't understand this problem. They're doing focus groups to try and find this problem. They compartmentalize them. They can't even show up, which makes it feel like these people and people like me who were previously homeless were not valued. And that is part of the problem. Hopefully you're willing to work towards a solution, but you have to have discussion. And so if you want to, I'm here. Someone's here, and there are others as well. Thank you.
And thanks for your testimony. How many other people would like to testify? If we could just see a show of hands. 1, 4 more. Okay. So I'm going to, if no objection, I'm going to extend for 10 more minutes. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I don't see any objection to that. Okay, great. Ma'am, would you like to come up? You're okay. You'll have 3 minutes to just share your name for the record, and you can begin.
Yeah, hello, my name is Colette Thibodeau. I'm a resident at Russian Jack. I live right against the trail system, East High School, Russian Jack Elementary School, and I frequent the trails. A couple of years ago, I was on the trail and I saw a family. I approached them. They were very safe. They were very open. I befriended them. I supplied some materials from them. I see the mom in the community. She's well established. She's doing well. And last summer, I saw the encampment just get larger and larger and larger down Pine Street as I would walk the trail. And I also drive down Mountain View when you turn right off of Pine, going to the highway. And I'm just going from a visual point of view, what I see in the community, what breaks my heart. And what I see are a community of people that prefer to be in an encampment. They prefer to be in camp. They prefer it. And I am thankful for that there is designated parking. I would like for that parking to look organized and not just scattered and disorganized. The encampment that's off of Mountain View, my perspective is they have been there for a long time. They're established residents in that encampment. Provide privacy for them. So we don't see them, they don't see us. As a citizen, I want privacy. I don't want the world looking into my home. And I can only imagine that that is what this community feels. They don't want the world looking into their neighborhood. That is their neighborhood off of Mountain View. Can we provide a visual barrier? Can we provide maintenance of their road system? Can we provide standard housing? How should they build the structure? How far should it be to the next structure? That area right there, it seems to be fairly treeless, a less likelihood of fires maybe, but that seems like a very designated camp area. Let's make it home for that population. Let's maintain their road system. Let's provide for them the services that they want in their neighborhood. That's their neighborhood. It doesn't bother me as a citizen that drives that road to know that that is their home. And my thought is there are some in that population that want services. There are some in that population that want to move on. There's some in that population that have a home and that's where they want to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Okay, who do we have coming up next? Great, thank you for being here. Thank you. You would give us your name and then you have 3 minutes to speak.
My name is Lucille Williams, and I also live at the Snow Dome. I just wanted to know if there's a way. I mean, what she had to say actually kind of cleared a lot of things that I wanted to say as well, but I feel like we're just given options. I mean, nobody asks us what we're okay with. I mean, like, I usually have a hard time coming out in the daytime outside the woods because I get anxiety and I'm kind of all messed up sometimes. But You know, I finally started taking my meds again, so that kind of helps. But I still have issues that make me feel uncomfortable. Like right now, I mean, like people like looking at me. I want to be the center of attention, but I can't stand it when people look at me. I don't know what it is, but everybody that I've been with here has been the like main reason why I'm able to get out and do things now and be okay with myself. I used to be angry and bitter, and I was really good at it, and I enjoyed it. But now I want to be a better person, and if you guys want to come in and like want us to trust you guys and get to know you guys, if you guys want to know us, you guys got to put down your got to put down your wall too. I mean, like we're not just gonna say come on, like, because I mean just dress down, like leave everything at home and just if you want to trust you, then you got to trust us. I mean, like, and I think we're okay with that. I mean, like it's not very okay. I have a trust issue, so maybe there is, to an extent or something, but I feel like I'd be okay with that. I mean, you just got to find the right person that everybody goes to and will trust the person that you're bringing in, like, regardless of who they are, just to let them know that they're going to be okay, even if you guys are who you are, because you guys got labels too, just like you guys put labels on us. I mean, but we're not really that bad. We've made a lot of bad choices, but it doesn't make us bad people. I still want to make bad choices, and they're the reason why I don't anymore. And I don't know. There should be somebody. Is there somebody I can talk to, or that we can get together and actually put our minds together instead of just pointing and telling us like that's what we're supposed to do? Because I'm pretty sure it will all work out. And we've got actually a really good idea that I've been putting together. We've been putting together that I think maybe you guys should look at as soon as I get it done. It shouldn't take that long. And that would be awesome. Yeah, I'm creeped out. Thank goodness.
Thank you.
time's up.
Thank you very much for being here today. All right, sir, welcome. If you share your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name's Brian Vaughn. Currently live at the snow dump. About one of the bigger places out there. Your time and count numbers is off. That night, they came out to the park there to do their count. Had 13 people staying up in my place that night. Only 2 of us have been counted. I mean, if that's went throughout Anchorage like that, your numbers are way off. And I like to say that I stay at the snow dump because in my drug and alcohol use, I want to be affiliated with the park because I know that's where the park's for the kids and the families. That's why I preferred the snow dump. So I've been there 2.5 years ago. And the past few weeks, when the temperature was way down low, I had an average of 20 people inside my place. Running a wood stove this year for the heat. Jamie's been swell enough to swing by nightly to make sure we had food to eat and drinks. He's been a savior with it. I just said, if there was someone we could, like she was saying, we got ideas ourselves. We just no one to talk to about it. The forum here sitting out and speaking like this, I have issues, stutter, sound confused. And Greg's right. These people, they snowball in this, y'all guys. I mean, you got the hotel rooms. You don't make their curfew at 11 o'clock at night. You can't come in till 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean, that's the coldest part of the day. And you're asked to, if you want to go to the hotel, you're asked to go through your belongings, get everything put down to 2 plastic tubs. You go there, I've seen people leave and come back in a week. They've just lost everything that they've had. No place to go. They're, I think, come out and visit, and we're not all welding machetes and threatening people. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for being here today. Okay, anybody else would like to speak? Seeing none, thank you all for being here today. Really, really appreciate it. Oh, one more. Okay. Yeah, come on up.
Okay.
All right. Just share your name for the record and you have 3 minutes.
Understood. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. All right. Hello, I'm Miss Sophia O'Neill. I have a residence in Eagle River. It will do us all good to remember every one of us has been offered a helping hand at some point in this life. Those that deny that, I offer this. Can you read, write, speak? Where did you learn to drive, cook, or procure your earnings? Or do just about anything? From where and how did you get your advancement? By whose authority were you allowed to advance? And allowed is the correct word. College acceptance, job offers, marriage, your position, or lack thereof, support in life affords a lot or little in this life. So where were you fortunate? At what point did things go right and prayerfully didn't go wrong? Some might say no one helped. Well, you are wrong, because in your life were 2 sets of footprints, except for the times where there was only one, where you were carried and yet called it all you. Now there is honor in helping others. There is honor in being unconditional with that help, and the disenfranchised see very little of that. Dishonor happens when there is no clear foresight to final outcomes. A job unfinished is where the so-called perceived lesser-thans do not develop or advance, but only the promise makers of change walk away with something, leaving nothing sustainable in place. That is not advancement, but only a job left unfinished. I'm so sorry. Speak matter-of-factly of what we still have to do, please. Do not only speak of what you feel is felt accomplished. Also, I wish you well with the summit in March. It is with great hope that many realize its potential and they contribute and they participate. Thank you today.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, thank you all for being here today. This meeting is adjourned.